Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
I got to talk. I got to tell what I feel. I got to talk about my life as I see it.
Well, let's start by saying we just came from Overland Expo East. Mm-hmm. So we both got out there in different ways. I flew out to Connecticut and drove my truck down the East Coast, or I should say towed my Land Rover with a U-Haul truck down the East Coast to Virginia. And Jerry, you drove out from California, right?
Yeah, I drove out to California via Georgia.
That's right.
And rode out the hurricane in Georgia, although it missed us completely. So we were thankful. And then made my way up to Expo East in Virginia. And then decided we were both going in the same direction home. And I was supposed to go to moon landing in New Mexico. And I was trying to convince Mike to join me there. And somewhere in Texas, we had a little mishap. A heap of smoke started coming out of my trailer. I went, oh, that doesn't look good. Pulled over and saw that the wheel was at a quite an angle. And I had actually broken the axle housing. And then the adventure started.
Yeah. So the interesting thing was Jerry was following I'll call it my sketchy setup with a U-Haul truck pulling a 1965 Land Rover on a tow dolly. So we figured it was safer if he followed me to make sure everything was going cool with the truck. And I happen to look in my rearview mirror and I always see Jerry behind me and I see smoke coming off of his something. And I go, uh-oh. And so from that point in Texas, we were in the Panhandle. We did a reverse. And I followed him because after we ended up with his trailer, I'll send you some pictures, Phil, for those of you on the podcast that might be watching this. We'll put some pictures up of how we got, or video of how we got the broken trailer off the highway and onto another trailer, onto a flatbed and then onto another trailer. But when I say sketchy, I would say it was really sketchy. Right. Yeah, actually, either Michael has some stuff up. If you go to Instagram, Tembo Jerry, I've got I got a video and a post that kind of shows it. And yeah, it was a little sketchy getting it all together. But I think we got it. And to top this off, Phil, we were in a town called McLean, Texas. Now, nobody in the world has ever heard of this town. And it says on a sign, it says population 600. And, I think that was in its better days. I would say if there was 60 people living in that town, I would have been surprised. Right. And we happened to find the only guy.
The town is deserted.
Yeah, totally deserted. And we found the guy. Well, so I left Jerry on the side of the highway because luckily we were right at the exit. And I drove, and then I stopped at the convenience store, and I go, hey, does anybody in town know how to weld or has a repair thing? We got to broke it down. Anyways. And the funny part is, when you're in small town America, everybody knows everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So they say, oh, the person you need to see is next door. They own the only place in town. They own the U-Haul dealership, the auto parts store, and they own a garage. And sure enough, I got hooked up with them. We got out, met them out on the highway, and we got the trailer back. And they had to use a forklift. So they we're fortunate enough that they had a forklift, and they forklifted the trailer pretty much onto the U-Haul trailer that Jerry rented.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, we slid it off the flatbed truck to a certain point, and then had to use the forklift to finish the job because the flatbed truck and the U-Haul car trailer or car hauler were never meant to mate.
No, they were not.
So it made it interesting to see how are we going to get this thing off and onto the other trailer.
So are you guys still in McLean?
No. So we were able to get out of McLean by finding another U-Haul, another U-Haul dealer that had a flatbed. So we got this on a flatbed, And then we made our way. McLean is in the Panhandle, just shy of Amarillo, Texas. And we were able to make it from Amarillo to, we're now out just outside of Albuquerque, back at my truck. So I made it back, quote, back home to where my destination was here in New Mexico. And we had to take it a little easy because it was a bit of a circus on the way here.
It was still sketchy.
Sketchy, but yeah.
So did you guys have any effect from the hurricane coming from the East Coast?
The one that's happening now?
Either one.
A little bit.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit, because we're all over the place, but that's our podcast. So let's rewind. Since we both were at Overland Expo, we can give a little recap. I would say the Overland Expo, by the way, turned out to be a great show. The weather actually was good, which is a miracle, because we've had now good weather, I think, at East for like 3 or 4 years running. But the attendance, in my opinion, and Jerry can speak for himself and see what was his feeling. I feel like the attendance was down, but you got to remember that borders were very close to North Carolina. There was severe devastation, and it was very difficult getting to Overland Expo for many people, because I-40, I-26 out of Asheville, the entire Blue Ridge Parkway, and this, by the way, is obviously leaf peeper season, is shut down. And those things, by the way, are in effect for what they're saying, describing somewhere between 1 and 2 years. So we're not talking short term here. And we actually had a couple people in attendance. I was in the showcase vehicle. I was in the creator area, and we had a couple creators actually bag out early that went down to North Carolina to help out friends that were devastated in the western North Carolina area. I think it's not being reported that accurately in the news. The devastation is pretty bad. And from what the pictures that we're seeing and saw at the event, and some of the private videos that I saw, it's devastation. I think I just read there was 500 bridges damaged, and more than 100 completely disappeared, taken out. There's countless amount of people missing. There's at last count, they still had 200, and I think they upped the number to 600 people missing. And sadly, they're finding, they were finding even bodies in trees. So, I mean, it's a really, really bad situation. That definitely affected to two things. It affected the morale to some extent, certainly some of the people that I talked to at Expo, and probably the attendance in general. And I don't know, Jerry, you can describe your scene coming up north, because you came from Georgia.
Yeah, I went up, I was about 100 miles north of Atlanta in a little town called Blue Ridge. And the thing about it is I got there on Friday night, which is when the hurricane hit. And somehow that area of Georgia was spared. We got rained, but it wasn't anything unusual. It just drizzled, the sun was out, it rained, it drizzled, not a big deal. And on Tuesday morning, I started heading to Overland East, and my drive through Georgia was uneventful. As soon as I crossed the border into North Carolina, trees were down everywhere. It's like as soon as you cross that border, the wind, I crossed into North Carolina to about 150 miles east of Asheville, and I was heading to Lexington and Greenville. But there was no gas stations were open. There was no electricity. Gas stations had gas, but they couldn't pump. And I was lucky to get through there. By Wednesday, the stations were starting to open. As I was going further north, I was able to get gas. But devastation wind-wise, I saw. I did not see the effects of the water except in one place. We had one bridge down on the highway it was on. We had to go around it, and it was either wiped out or covered in mud. It was hard to tell what had happened to that bridge, but we went around it, and everything was okay. But I was 200 miles east of Asheville and the damage was pretty extensive, at least for the trees. And the further I went north, the better things got.
And in fairness, there was a lot of mud at Overland Expo East when we arrived, because Jerry and I both got there on Wednesday night, and it rained. It rained all night, and it was wet. The field was wet, and there were a number of vendors that pulled out of Overland Expo, including Dometic. So there was some big, they're apparently, I don't know. The booth was flooded. It was wet. Let's just be honest about that. And you, Phil, you've been there before. That racetrack that goes around. I was actually shocked at how deep the ruts were. They spent a couple hours on Thursday morning pulling people that were stuck with excavators into the event. So it started out looking a little bit like dicey, like some of those past Expo East. But luckily the sun came out and it dried out really quickly.
So yeah, I think the hurricane probably did have an effect on attendance, not only on some of the vendors not either not showing up or like Dometic deciding that they weren't going to have any more fun. But I think the show was smaller because, Asheville is a huge area that would funnel people in. And they were busy, and I think that created a smaller show. There's nothing that could be done about it. It was still a good show, though.
Yeah, and news of the hurricane was a week in advance, so people who were even traveling probably diverted their, away from that.
Yeah, and let's be fair. Our thoughts are going out currently to all the people that got hit by the hurricane in Florida, and we had people had to bag out of the event early. Azure, as an example, flew out. She unfortunately, my thoughts are definitely with her because she had to cancel at the very last minute the Rebel rally that her and Eva were doing. They had to pull out 2 days before the rally because the rally actually starts today because of her. She was in the direct line of fire from the second hurricane here, and that when she's in Sarasota, so that went right. That basically landed in Sarasota. So there's a lot of people without power, lots of problems going on. I don't even think we've heard on the news what the extent of that situation is, but there were that definitely affected some people as well, having to leave earlier or take care of problems down in Florida as well.
All right, guys. So can I have a brief synopsis of Overland Expo since I wasn't there?
Well, it wasn't the same without you.
We missed you.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Really. We Zoom called you that one night, so we talked to Phil.
And I appreciated that too. Made me feel good.
And by the way, let me shout out to you guys in the audience, because the reason I called Phil from Overland Expo was I was absolutely overwhelmed by the amount of people that came by my truck and said they listened to the podcast. I could not believe the amount of people that came by that said, "Oh, I love listening to you guys on Friday." I got comments everywhere from, "I love the way you guys, you skirt the edge. You're talking about politics. You're talking about overlanding. I like it. You guys tell it like it is." I got so many people, and my position as usual at Overland Expo was great because I was parked right next to the staircase that goes up to the Oasis bar and all the food trucks, right there in the crate area. So everybody had to walk by. And I want to send a big thank you out to everybody that came by and checked out the old Africa Land Rover, but particularly the podcast listeners, because it was absolutely amazing how many of you guys listen to this podcast. So thank you very much for that. And we love it.
And I want to apologize to the audience. I didn't make it clear that I wasn't going to be there. Had quite a few people tell me that they were looking for me. And so I apologize for that. I won't make that mistake again.
That's funny because I got people came up again. "Hey, where's Phil at?"
Well, we got a lot. We got that a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Luckily, we did catch you in the bathroom. So on the
Zoom call. Yeah,
at least
Zoom call.
we got something good out of it.
That's right.
That's the only place I'm allowed in the house.
That's right. He's either got to be in the bathroom or behind the microphone. That's the only two places that Phil's allowed to be. But I know I would say the summary, I would agree with, it was a good event. I agree with Jerry. I could tell you the classes that I taught were packed as usual. It was a usual good time. East is a good vibe. I like it's hard to put a words on it. It's sort of more grassrootsy. East reminds me more of the older Overland Expos. Well, what do you think, Jerry?
I think so. It's because it's smaller. I mean, West has become very commercial. And I think both Mountain West and Pacific Northwest are emulating, Flagstaff. And I think, East Coast is just happy that we go out there. So they're very appreciative of that expo. And it was, we talked to so many people there. And it felt good. It felt like we were home.
Yeah.
So.
And I realized I've never missed an Overland Expo East. I've been to every single Overland Expo East that's ever happened.
Oh, yeah, wow. I only missed the Hurricane one. I think the first one.
Taylor Ranch.
Been to every other one otherwise.
So when was the first one? I've been going ever since the Biltmore.
We were talking about that at the expo the other day, and I confuse my years. I want to say Taylor Ranch was before the Biltmore.
Yes.
And then it went to the Biltmore, and then it went to Rebranch, and then it went to Arrington, Virginia on the one side, and then it moved over to the new Arrington, Virginia side. I think that was the order, but I'm trying to remember if there was something before Taylor Ranch or it was the Biltmore and then Taylor Ranch and then back to the Biltmore. I can't really remember where the first one was.
I think Taylor Ranch was the first one. And to be honest with you, I thought Reed Ranch was the second one, then Biltmore, and then Arrington.
No, Biltmore came before Reed Ranch.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to, Jerry, because Reed Ranch was the final event that Jonathan and Roseanne put on while they still owned it. And then the next year, the new company moved it to Virginia. I think that's
that makes sense.
I think maybe if any of you guys listening out there know that we're wrong, just send us a message or something, because we probably are wrong.
Yeah, Reed Ranch was like the turning point for it. Not just that, but like they changed a lot of how they do things because of that big mud thing. You remember that was the Mud Bowl.
It's still one of my favorite events.
Me too.
We had much fun.
Yeah,
at Rebranch, so much fun. Now, and everyone still talks about it. So one way or the other, it was memorable. But I enjoyed it.
It's funny you say everybody talks about it, including Overland Expo. So on Thursday, when we were moving in, Emily, who's the director of operations for Overland Expo, I know there was a conversation with a bunch of them that they were in a panic, sort of, because it was still so muddy, and they were like, "Is this going to turn out to be because the more people that come in and drive on something, as you know, it gets worse." So they were like, "Is this going to be like Rebranch?" Is this just like I go, "Oh no, oh no, no." Yeah, trust me on this. This is nowhere near Rebranch. If you think this is bad, you would have just cried and put a bag over your head and hid at Rebranch, because that was brutal.
The irony to me about Rebranch was you got all of these overlanders and they were complaining about rain and mud, and they and weren't prepared for it.
It's funny you say that, because I was talking to AJ, who has a big orange truck similar to mine, and he was at Rebranch that year. His truck at the time was a different truck; it was green, and him and I were sharing. So we didn't know each other really at the time, but him and I were sharing stories, and it was him and I had that orange Unimog at the time, and we were pulling out. We had to pull out 2 earth roamers that were stuck in the field. And when I say stuck in the field, they were stuck. They couldn't go anywhere. The field, when you guys were there, was flat. There was no obstacles.
There was no, it was flat as can be. And the tires were just turning.
Just turning.
They weren't even digging in. They were just turning.
Just spinning like it was on ice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, parts of the vendor area, your feet would go into the mud and would suck onto your shoe.
Yeah. I lost my muck boots and there, and a foot and a half tall muck boots just came off. Next thing you know, your boot was in the ground and you're trying to dig your boot out. I just remember camping there on that little stream, and Kevin from Lifestyle Overland was on the other side, and we were both looking at each other. We were yelling across the water, and because we're getting nervous. It was rising. That creek was going up and up and up, and I was like, "Is that creek going to come over the bank?" It was that bad.
I'm going to look for the video. Hopefully I will be showing some video. I have a video of your vehicle right there by the water.
Do you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So anyways, the summary on Overland Expo this year, good time had by all, I think. Obviously it was affected by, in many ways, by some of the people that certainly in the Creator area, there were a number of, I'll call them YouTubers that had concerns and were from that area in North Carolina. So there was some evacuation going on, trying to help them. And there was actually even talk of trying to get some of the Overland community at Expo to come down and do some relief effort in North Carolina, because they were looking, and sadly, they were looking primarily for people that had drones and that could fly drones, because that's how they were doing a lot of the assessment of both damage and hunting for missing people or whatever from the air.
Mike, I was trying not to go into politics.
Oh,
but
boy.
how are they going to get to do all of that? They literally are preventing people from helping people.
Well, so that's the problem, is that they had all the roads completely shut down with no access. You had to prove that you owned property in that area. And the only way through, there was two organizations. I think it's the Red Cross and I'm gonna torture the name, Samaritan something or other, that were taking volunteers in. And Tim, Truck House Camper, if anybody follows him out in the world, he's got millions of subscribers. He actually left Saturday morning super early to head down there. And he's actually posted some video if you go look at his YouTube or Instagram channels. But I don't know how he got in. But there was some discussion about that. And not to get political, but there definitely is, it's being extremely underreported. The media is probably partly because the media can't get in either, but so it's, I think a lot of the news, I saw videos and pictures from personal people at the event that I have not seen anywhere on the news at all. So it's not getting out there.
Well, you're avoiding the obvious, Mike. The media is predominantly liberal. We have we have liberals in the office right now, so they're not going to try and make them look bad. That's the bottom line. Yeah,
with an election year going on, and on top of that, not to be a conspiracy sounding person or anything, but you also realize that both of the areas actually that have been hit are primarily red zone areas. Right. So Western North Carolina is certainly a very deep red district. There's probably some of that for sure going on. I don't disagree. Jerry's going to say, Jerry's going to listen to you and I ramble on about this crap. Rightfully so. He just stay out of it. Because
my only comment about the whole thing is that it doesn't make sense for them to do that, although it does appear to be that way, because if they rushed in and made sure everything got done properly, they'd look great.
Yeah.
And so it just doesn't make sense. So I think I would just chalk it up to incompetence. And if you look back at different disasters, both sides are I think equally incompetent when it comes to stuff like this. It shouldn't be a surprise. They should know how to deal with this. It's not the first time this has happened. But I think they're equally incompetent, and it's unfortunate that people suffer for for it.
Yeah, and I mean, just like everything else, I like to say this a lot. The federal government isn't good at doing anything. They're not. So, private organizations or charities or other people that are on the ground tend to be more effective, can generate money faster, get the stuff that is needed in people's hands faster. The federal government moves at a snail's pace about everything. I mean, hell, we just drove across America, and I got to tell you, like, this is just a bitch, but like the roads are horrible. Like, I mean, Jerry's trailer probably broke because literally we're going along and bouncing up and down on this concrete bullshit through Oklahoma and Texas. Right? I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah. I almost know what destroyed my axle. My trailer bounced 2 and 3 times over a bump, and I went, "Whoa, that's not good." And really the next day, it eventually gave out. But I think I know where that bump started the crack. So,
and this is Interstate Highway 40, right? So this is one of the major arteries across the United States. And by the way, most of the way it's 2 lanes, and it is grossly inadequate as a highway. It is so congested the whole way, like you're tense. You're tense. This is why I generally never go on the freeways, because it's a tense drive, because you're always getting passed by trucks and you're trying to pass slow moving vehicles, and it's like playing Frogger all day long. And the problem is like the highway really should be 3 or 4 lanes even. And it's not like we don't have the real estate. I mean, you're driving through the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. So you could make this thing, but money isn't put into this kind of thing. And then when they come out with this, the bipartisan infrastructure bullshit act, well, that means is we're going to build a bridge, and instead of taking 2 years, it's going to take 5 years to build, so we can milk some more money out of it, or whatever goes on. It's fascinating how bad the infrastructure is. It's like, and not for nothing, it's like all these trucks driving, everything in the United States is delivered by semi-rig. I mean, you would think we'd figure out a better train system.
I do have a recommendation for anybody that decides to travel cross country. I tried it this time. I did it the year before, and it kind of worked. On your Google Maps, there's a little checkbox that says, "Don't go on major highways." Yeah. You click that, and it took me on secondary roads. I went clear across Texas on secondary roads. Not only was it equally as fast as I-40 or I-10, because I could tell where I would camp when I took I-10 or I-40, and all my stops were in line with those stops. And I thought, okay, I'm not going any slower. But the key is that there was no traffic. No traffic. I could drive for 2 or 3 hours, not see another car. It was so pleasant. You're going through, farmland, ranches, just beautiful terrain. When you go through Texas, you're bored to death. However, take the secondary roads. It's interesting all the way across. You go through little towns. Sure, you slow down, but I think in the end, you're not hammered by the trucks, because they're just not on there, and neither are the people. It's great. So next time, click off highways, take secondary roads. You will thank me. Trust me.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, Jerry. That has been my recommendation for a decade now. Pretty much the way I travel, that's how I travel. I do exactly what you said. I highly recommend that.
But as do I. And you got to realize that what Jerry said is true. You will slow down in some towns and go through the town, but your net effect, the last 2 days, we have rubber banded our way across America. Like it's speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down, pass. You get you get roadblocks by trucks. That the construction is an insanity, and then you'll get cones for 5 miles, and they're working on 26 feet of that. So you can't even figure out what they're for, right? I mean,
oh yeah, I mean, there's cones for miles, and you're right. They're working on a tenth of a mile, and that's, I suppose, it's probably just the way it has to be done. But they don't pour a lot of people into it. That's for sure.
Yeah, so back roads, I agree. I mean, and you also remember that Texas, Wyoming is a good example of this. Montana. I mean, some of these back roads, like secondary roads, whatever you want to call them. I mean, the speed limit is, if you can drive that outside of a Ferrari, I give you credit, because there's some roads. I was going along in Montana, secondary road. There was speed limit was like 75. You couldn't drive 75 on that thing if your life depended on it. I mean, really.
That's true. Texas was the same. However, the key to it, it's not really the speed limit, it's the consistency of speed.
Yeah.
Where it's just like Mike was saying, you're on the 40 or the 10, and it's like it's like a slinky. We're never at a consistent speed. And so you lose plenty of time.
Yeah.
The other great thing about a secondary road, at least for me, is I get a lot of stuff done because I pretty much put it in cruise control. There's no other vehicles. I have to make sure to watch for a deer or a cow or something like that. And I'm conducting business. I'm doing eating, all kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, on the highway, you got two hands on the steering wheel and you can't do anything. There's semi-rigs swerving around and taking you out, and all sorts of stuff going on. So agreed on that. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Take the secondary road. I mean, the unfortunate part is, back to the infrastructure thing. You've got you basically got 10, 40, 70, 80, and 90 going east to west. And they're all in the same, with the exception of 90, which generally doesn't have a whole lot of people on it, and it's mostly two lanes. The rest of them are a disaster, really, all of them.
I don't know why we won't invest in our infrastructure. It is the only thing short term, a quick fix to our economy outside of having another war.
Because we can't figure out how to build it with Chinese.
Say that
again?
Also,
they're trying to get us out of our cars. So, I'm out of California. They are working. They're bending over backwards to get us out of our cars. They do no road repair in California. None whatsoever. We live in a third world country in California, and the roads attest to that. But they're trying to get us into public transportation. And
they don't want you driving a car. But explain to me, how do they want you to get from California to, I don't know, wherever, Wyoming? How do they want you to get?
But even if you stayed in one state, like in California, everything is so far apart. I mean, if I go to LA, it's a 30-mile drive. If I go, from one city to another, it's a 20-mile drive. Nothing is close. Mm-hmm. And if I had to take public transportation, first of all, you will be lucky to arrive alive. Certainly in California. And it'll take half the day to get there, and you need an ambulance when you get off. So, I don't know why anybody would do that. Give me my car. I feel safe. So,
I love it. We bring a Californian on the podcast because all we do is rant on this podcast about California, and then we bring somebody from California who is even better at ranting about it than we are. This is ideal. This is why I don't go to California generally. I literally stay out of the state because it's I mean, I don't need to tell you, it's expensive as hell. Fuel, everything is expensive, and it's not that easy to, as a nomad, it's not that easy to camp in places. It's more difficult. There's sections that are, but it's more difficult than a lot of states. And and then if you're talking about the cities, holy hell, oh boy.
Oh yeah, you want to stay
being
out.
honest. I mean, California's bad, no doubt, but Oregon and Washington are not far behind you on a lot of the things that you're complaining about.
Yeah, I mean, and for the same reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil, I drove. So when I drove from Connecticut to Overland Expo, the quickest route is to go down I-95, which is the eastern corridor. And I will avoid I-95 if I got to drive through Minnesota to get there. So I took the super western route and went all around that, because if you drive through, like, say, the New York City metropolitan area, you will swear you are in Baghdad. Like the roads have been bombed within the last 3 years. I mean, there are potholes that Volkswagens will disappear in. So I avoid New York City metropolitan area, and then to compound that, you end up going through New Jersey. You got to do Baltimore. You got to do Washington D.C. So I took I went way west, went down through 81 in Pennsylvania and stayed way the hell out of all that. And it's longer mileage and longer time, but I mean,
if you're taking the route I'm thinking about, though, it's a much more beautiful route.
Yes.
You're going like when you're in New York, you're passing through Bear Mountain, right? Like near the Hudson River.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful ride.
Sure. Yeah.
That's the other thing about this. You are taking a longer route, but a consistent speed and visual route. That's what you're bartering.
And what you're going to miss out on, as Jerry and I can tell you, though, unfortunately, if you don't take the interstate, you're going to miss out on going to BUC-EES. And, so we stopped.
As lucky as we were to go to BUC-EES.
Yeah, but I will tell you that particular BUC-EES that we stopped at, I was a little disappointed. Honestly, I mean, my rating of BUC-EES went down after I went to that location. For one, you had to go off road. You had to spend 20 minutes off the highway trying to get to the BUC-EES. It was like convoluted. Usually you can get off the freeway and boom, you're at the truck stop, right? Not this one.
Yeah, normally a BUC-EES has a dedicated exit.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm talking to two of my homies who I know are foodies just like me. So run it down. How have you guys been eating on the trip? Any highlights? I know you went to the Waffle House.
No, we did. Did we? Oh, Jerry did. That's right.
I did. You know what? I have to stop at Waffle House. If I don't go to Waffle House, the trip's not good. And I was not disappointed.
Mike will attest that the last time I was on the East Coast traveling with him, I actually made a whole group of about maybe 25 people all go with me to Waffle House
with our big trucks.
Yeah, I think it was more than that because the parking lot, nobody could get out because of these huge vehicles.
Yeah, it was like it was like Tetris trying to get our trucks out. We had to one guy had to move before the next guy could even move.
But Jerry, tell them why me and you are so obsessed with the idea that we must eat at Waffle House if we go on the East Coast.
You know what? For me, it's peanut butter waffles. And you can't get those anywhere else. They put little sprinkles of peanut butter. It is the best. And I like watching them work. You're sitting right there. You got the cooks there, the waitress or waiters there. And I don't care if you're in Arizona or on the East Coast. It's the same crew in every single Waffle House. And you know what? You go in there, you know what you're going to get. And you feel, again, right at home when you go there. And my only complaint of a Waffle House is that they have one way in and one way out. They seem to have decided that you cannot bring a trailer inside a Waffle House parking lot, or you just got to figure it out. But so other than that, but no, I'll hit up a Waffle House any day of the week.
Jerry's right, by the way. It's the staff, because many of the employees I found have worked there for since the place opened. Number one, so their turnover rate seems to be lower, and two, I like the atmosphere where you can see what's going on. That's my thing. Is the cooking is right there. So that's kind of what I like. And by the way, which has been in the news lately, Waffle House is the number one indication as to what the situation is from a disaster relief and or potential impact from a storm or a hurricane or natural disaster. Because, and by the way, the one that just came to Florida, I think it was a record number of Waffle Houses closed. I want to say it was 36 Waffle Houses that shut down in advance of the storm. So that was a sign that this was no joke.
No joke.
Yeah, the Waffle House has it broken down almost scientifically.
That's right. Yeah, green, yellow, and red. Mm-hmm. And they got the color codes of what the situation is and how they're going to operate. So it's fascinating to me.
So I love the Waffle House because it is the only place that I've gone to that is 100% consistent with the making of their grits. For some reason, people have a hard time being consistent with grits, and I love grits. And then I get chili on them.
I tried that because you made me. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if that's the combination that I prefer the most. I kind of like my grits a little cheesy myself, but you know,
You
we'll
had
have to
cheese in your
ask.
grits?
We need to ask Sir William. What the way? I mean, I think he's the Waffle House grits master.
Was William at Expo?
No, well, he was stayed out west. He's actually
with his girl.
he's here in New Mexico. He's at Moon Landing right now.
So are you guys headed to Moon Landing?
We've been kind of detoured because of the trailer. I can't go that far off the grid with this trailer. It's too I need to stay on the major highways in case something else goes wrong.
Oh no,
so
I get it.
It's too sketchy. We try to take that thing over some bumper. Next thing you know, the Tembotusk trailer, which probably would make for some pretty interesting video, but you would see the trailer flying off the back of the U-Haul trailer or something, and we don't want that to happen. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to miss this year's moon landing, which was, it's happens.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I was looking forward to it, and this was such an unexpected thing that happened to us on the way. But I need to get this home and get it repaired, get it ready for the next trip. And you can't risk too much. That's the problem. Moon landing is just too far out in the middle of nowhere to put myself at that risk. Unfortunately, I have a business to run.
Right.
I need to get back.
Yeah.
So, Jerry, briefly mention that for the 1% of the people listening who don't know who you are and what business you run, get into that just briefly.
Well, obviously the name of my company is Tembotusk. We started in 2010, mostly because I couldn't find what I needed, on myself. And people go, "Oh, if you make that, I'll buy one." And sure enough, that started a company, and almost everything that we make is something that I needed to go camping or overlanding that I couldn't buy on the market. And from a drop-down slide to the SKOTTLE, which is really our main product. It's our sexy product. What it slides, camp tables, you name it. We make it for a reason because I needed it. And we make it so that you buy once and you don't have to buy it again. It's built to last. And we've been doing this now for just about 15 years. And I still love it. I'm having a great time. So that's
and you started
all of our gear American made. We make it all in California. So it's all American made gear. Something that you don't see a lot of.
Go ahead, bro.
No, I was just I was gonna say you started with the slides, because I think a lot of people think you started with the SKOTTLE.
Yes. Oh, they do. We get that a lot too. Oh, I didn't know you made slides. Our first product was a drop-down slide, and we made those for a number of years. We've stopped making them. We may bring them back because we now make everything in-house. And at the time that we dropped that product, it was too expensive to produce. It was exorbitantly expensive to produce. And so we are going to try to bring it back in-house. But yeah, slides was what started the company. And, we went from slides to camp tables and then our SKOTTLE. And the SKOTTLE really just blew up. We're so appreciative. People just adopted the SKOTTLE as a cooking device. And because it does more than cook. It's also a social device. People hang out. You set up a SKOTTLE and you start cooking. All of a sudden, you got a crowd of people around you. And that was kind of an unintended consequence of the SKOTTLE, but it was a happy one. And you no longer have your back to everybody when you're cooking. So that's I think that's what's made it special in the overlanding world. It brings people together, and it's fun to use. So,
well, Mike, the biggest joke in the overlanding community is you're not an overlander yet until you own a SKOTTLE.
Well, I mean, and that's so true. I mean,
that's only right.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm sure both of you have heard that joke before.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that one. I don't forget who did the video with the talking about all the stuff that you had to have. From the SKOTTLE to the Max Tracks to the Jerry.
I think that was Sir Williams did that.
It may have been. Yeah,
I think so. He did it a couple of years ago, and it was like great. I made the big time.
Yeah,
I'm in the video.
Jerry, you may be aware of this already, but if not, I want to give you some insight on your product from walking all of these expos that we go to, going through all of the parking lots, picking out the best rigs. Your Tembotusk SKOTTLE is so popular and so wanted that there are people who they don't even cook during the whole event, but they make a point of putting together their SKOTTLE and putting it in front of their tent because they don't feel like it's complete unless they have the SKOTTLE right there.
That's true.
That does make me feel good. When I walk the camps and I see, it's like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. It's me. I'm there. It feels like I'm in their camp. So yeah, it's affirming. I mean, it just makes me happy. Yeah.
Mike.
Yeah.
Have you all done any cooking on the trip, or has it been restaurants the whole way?
No, I mean, we have largely eaten what I would consider to be fairly poorly over the last week. I mean, we've done a lot of, well, let's see. Jerry and I managed to hit a McDonald's, a Wendy's. Let's see.
What else? Brew pub.
Oh yeah, the brew pub. We did it. We did a couple brew pubs. So we've gone out and about. I've not done a lot of cooking. Well, so in fairness, I had no way of really doing anything in Overland Expo because remember, I didn't have my truck, so every 5 minutes I would discover something else that I didn't have. So by the end of the weekend, I had borrowed a coffee mug from AJ. I had borrowed utensils from somebody else. Amanda. From the motorcycle, Amanda, she gave me a knife. I mean, I had nothing. So I had nothing to cook with. I didn't have a refrigerator. I didn't have any food, so it just went on and on. So, I pretty much had a beer. That's about all I could offer. And it's hard to live for a week on beer. So, we had to go out to eat.
You did a pretty good job, though, I have to admit.
I worked on it for sure. Phil, that at Overland Expo East, they have Dark Hollow, that stout at the bar, at the happy hour bar. And let's just say if you have 3 of those, it's a good thing that it's actually a good thing I'm positioned right at the bottom of the stairs from the bar.
You would have been better at the top of the stairs.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is for both of you guys. What's the future hold short term? Where are you guys going? Where are you headed? What's going on?
I'll let Mike start.
Oh, thanks. So I am actually late because, as you guys might have known, I've probably talked about this on past podcasts. I was supposed to be in a Spanish language immersion class down in Baja, which started about 3 weeks ago. So I'm late for that. So I'm leaving New Mexico here probably tomorrow to make my way down towards Yuma, Arizona. And I expect to be down at the southern tip of Baja by the end of next week. So within the next week, I will be back in Baja in my Spanish language class. And that's where I'm going to be for the winter. So that's really my plan is to, we've talked about this. I've had years of Spanish and I spent so much time south of the border with a potential Pan-American highway trip and everything else. I really want to be able to communicate as much as possible. And I think, and we tell people, I taught the Baja classes at Overland Expo East, and people ask all the time, well, do I need to know Spanish? The quick answer to that is not really. However, you're going to get more out of where you travel to if you know the language. And that's true of Spanish, French, whatever, South African, wherever you're going. The more you understand, the better I think it takes away some of your anxiety because if there's people talking around you and you don't know what they're saying, I think it makes people anxious. So the more that you communicate in the local language of where you are, the better. So that's my soapbox. I'll jump off of that. So what are you up to, Jerry?
Well, after Expo East, we slowly wind the year down essentially, we're mostly attending local little events, whether it's a parking lot event or small camping events that are near us. But we're pretty much done doing big events now, and like I say, we'll slowly wind down into November, and December. Not a lot going on. Actually, we got one event in December, and that's it. And then we start again in January, February, and wind it back up.
This is usually when I.
Oh, sorry. But this is the disclaimer. Between now and Christmas is the time to buy a SKOTTLE because they make a great gift. So, just for your audience, I got to put my plug in.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to go that far, then what's the difference between the little one and the big one? Which one should?
Good question, because we've got our standard SKOTTLE is 18 inches, stands 36 inches, and has a bunch of accessories. Our little SKOTTLE, which we call the Adventure SKOTTLE, is 12 inches, stands 12 inches tall. You put it on a table, and is designed for anybody who's cooking for one or two, has a motorbike, puts it in their pannier boxes, good for a canoe or Subaru, any small vehicle. The larger one, great for family. If you love to cook or you bring ingredients when you go camping, you want the big one. If you just need to feed yourself and you're just by yourself, the little one is adequate. But it's a good question, because even on our website, we have one menu is dedicated to the bigger SKOTTLE. A completely separate menu is dedicated to the Adventure SKOTTLE. And people still mix them up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. They're in two completely different menus, and we explain specifically this is the smaller one and it's a tabletop, but they still mix them up and buy items. They cross them, buy the big SKOTTLE and buy the Adventure lid. Of course, they don't work, or vice versa. So we don't know quite how to fix that.
So let me ask you. So, as a longtime SKOTTLE user, maybe I don't even know this. What is the big SKOTTLE called?
We just call it the SKOTTLE Grill.
Okay, so
we never really had a name for it per se, other than it's a SKOTTLE, or as most people say, the Tembotusk.
So maybe you should call it the Classic SKOTTLE or something.
Classic.
Classic SKOTTLE, because I always I call it the Tembotusk SKOTTLE, and then I call the other one the baby SKOTTLE. That's which is the adventure one.
In the shop, we refer to it as the baby SKOTTLE.
Yeah,
but for marketing purposes, we call it the Adventure SKOTTLE. But yeah, there's a little bit of confusion, and
because I was going to say Apple's good at this. If you go to the Apple site and you want to you want to compare, they have that comparison thing. So you could go, right. I want to compare the this computer to this computer, and you can look at the specs down there. So that could be good. You could call it the Classic SKOTTLE and the Adventure SKOTTLE in here, and then everything under it lines up. So it's just an idea, but
actually that's a good idea, as have a comparison. I used to have a comparison on the website for stoves,
yes.
Which stove worked.
Yes.
And but I think why you would, because I get those calls often, and I just explain it on the phone or on an email, which one they should buy.
Right.
And like I say, the Classic SKOTTLE probably sells 10-1 to the Adventure, because the Adventure is more specific need, whereas the Classic SKOTTLE is more general purpose. And yeah,
and they're both small, by the way. The Classic SKOTTLE, is in a bag it's not that big, right? So it's of all the cook gear I've owned, it takes up the least space of any cook gear I've ever owned, and that's quote the big SKOTTLE. So obviously the baby one is even smaller.
Yeah, I mean, and you don't need any other cookware. You don't need pots and pans. And like the little one, the Adventure SKOTTLE, I mean, it weighs 3.5 pounds. So, if a weight is the issue, you know what, that solves that problem. And if space is the issue, you can still use the big one, and you don't have a 2-burner stove, you don't have pots and pans. So it solves a multitude of issues.
I just want to interject, Jerry. Whenever you talk about the Adventure SKOTTLE, it's always connected to motorcycles, and it's awesome for that. But everybody that I know personally who owns one and who uses it, like Candy,
Right.
Sir William Goes. I know quite a few people with the little small adventure one, and they're not using it for a motorcycle. It's great for a solo traveler that doesn't eat much.
Well, the funny thing is, that's the rub. I designed it for the motorcycle guys, and unfortunately, I'm still hearing crickets from them. Hint, hint.
We're working on that. We're working on that. We've got some motorbike people listening here.
Yeah, I designed it for you. I'm still waiting to hear. But we find that the Overlanders will have the big one when they go with family and friends. But if they go on their own, they bring the little one. It's my go-to as well. I use the little one more than the big one because I'm often just cooking by myself. But if I happen to be with a group, I haul out the big one. So yeah, the majority of people who buy it are Overlanders who are just supplementing their cooking system.
All right, I want to ask a question here because some of you guys don't know Jerry's background. You just came back from a trip in Africa.
Yes.
This was not your first trip to Africa. So tell people that are listening a little bit about this, because I'm excited about, particularly when it comes to vendors that are in the overland space, that I find, how do I say this nicely? Some of them are
actually
not really
travel.
Yeah, yeah, that are actually overlanders or campers or real people that actually use stuff. They're not bangers like Phil and I like to call them. So, but your background, it's fascinating. So tell the listeners out here, you just came back from Africa, right? And a lot of these places I've been, we've shared a lot of stories.
I've done a lot more traveling than most people realize, and probably I should talk about it more. One of my first early jobs was driving a cross-country bus, and the passengers were 18 to 30, and it was a camping tour. We had a cook, we had a tour guide, and we had a driver. I was the driver, and we would go cross-country in the States, from California to New York, through a southern route or a northern route, camping all the way. And then in the off season, I would go to Europe. I learned to ski in Innsbruck. So I'd go to Europe during the off season, and I'd go to Africa during the off season. And on one of my off season years, I hooked up with a company that did overland trips, true overland trips through Africa. We'd go from London to South Africa by truck, and we used converted British Bedford troop transports. And I was one of the designated drivers because I was one of the few on the truck that knew how to drive a truck. Yeah. And with the assigned driver, and I was, as a passenger, I was the second driver. And took us 4 months to go through Africa, and fascinating. A lot of the countries we went through today, or then, and this was in the 80s, you can't go through today, and vice versa. Yeah. Eventually, I met my wife on one of those bus trips. She was from South Africa. And so that made us go to South Africa a lot, which means I went to Tanzania as well, went to Zimbabwe, and, a lot of traveling. And then this past year, we decided to go to South Africa. And then we flew up to Rwanda, spent a few days there, and spent about 3 weeks in Uganda. And lucky for us, we spent 3 weeks in a Land Cruiser, so we were in heaven to start. The countryside is so beautiful. The people were so beautiful. And it's funny, in the 80s, you didn't go to Uganda. Uganda was a dangerous place. Right. Today, I don't think it's if you go into any inner city in America, far more dangerous than going to Africa by a long shot.
Which I'm glad you say that, because that's a point that we cover here on the podcast quite often, is the misinformation, particularly that Americans get from what I call the Fox News CNN syndrome, where they're just, afraid. And I think we would have a lot less problems in the United States and a lot less chaos and polarization if we indeed went to some more of these places, because you hate to say it this way, but some of these developing countries, aka what Americans call third world countries, are actually more advanced than a lot of the drama that we got going on here in the States, which we're supposedly a first world country. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a bit. I went to Uganda as well back in 1991, so it was just post Idi Amin, and unfortunately, you visited. I remember visiting some of the mass grave sites and all the stuff that went on there. They've got quite a history. Actually, the guy that took over for him was not any better. So they've come a long way for sure. But like you say, there's countries now that you went to back then that they're no-goes now. So
we went to Rwanda. I mean, I've been to Burundi and Rwanda, before the the genocide. And the recovery that they've made after the genocide is mind-boggling. Here in this country, we're still at each other's throat over the Civil War, it's true. They've seemed to have made peace with themselves, over what happened during that genocide. And if you ever go to the Genocide Museum or read about it, it's mind-boggling what happened in those countries. But they've recovered. They're now beautiful countries and friendly people. It's
on my to-do list for sure, because I was there. I was in Rwanda in 1991, 1992.
You were
in
just
the middle.
There before.
No, it was in the middle. Heavy fighting. I was there with heavy civil war going on. We were there actually when the president was shot down. It was.
Yeah, that was the start of the genocide. When he got shot down, all hell broke loose after that.
Yeah. So I would love to go back and see it post that, because my memories of Rwanda are far less than pleasant. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, my original memories of Rwanda and Burundi were just such a pleasant place, and then now coming back today, I'm in the same place. Yeah. Although I followed the news closely when everything was going on there. Having been there, it's like I'm sure a lot of the people that I met,
are gone.
Jerry, froze up.
Jerry, where's Jerry?
So he'll be back.
Oh, there he is.
I just want to say that I'm glad.
I'm here. Sorry, somebody called at the very same time.
Hey, did you sell him the SKOTTLE? That's what we need to know.
These are live podcasts.
That's right. This is the Jerry Lewis telethon here. So we're taking calls in right now. We've got SKOTTLEs on sale for $5 off right now. Call in the next 2 minutes.
So people watching who maybe aren't understanding how you guys are together, but you're not together. You're in your own vehicles and you're parked next to each other right now. just for the audience.
We can actually hear each other talk at the moment. Yeah. I can hear my voice in Mike's truck. We're about, I'd say, 20 yards apart. 10 yards
20 yards
apart.
We're both camped at my friend Peter's house. He is of Vermont Overland fame. He used to run the Vermont Overland events in Vermont, and he now started up New Mexico Overland. So you can check him out. And so, anyways, we're at his house, which is where my truck is. Yeah, I will do that. He'll listen to the podcast. But I've been at his house, or my truck has been there actually for the last. Well, I guess pretty much since Mountain West Overland Expo, although I haven't been here. So they've very kindly, Peter and Kim have been taking care of the Expedition Turtle is in the house. So he's been getting fed all sorts of bougie lettuce and whatnot. So he's a happy camper. But that's where Jerry and I are. And we didn't pull in here last night until it was dark.
It was probably 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it was dark. We got delayed. We were expecting to be here at noon, but then, things happened. So, yeah, anyways. And yeah, so by the way, this is the second year in a row we've caravanned across the United States.
That's right. We did it last year after this show. And I think that we need to make a habit of it.
I know it's a new thing. Maybe we can do it in a slower pace and actually do some cool places and camping instead of the I-40. I call it I don't know. It's like a marathon.
Well, funny. 2 years in a row that we did this together, and both years we were rushing against the clock to get where we need to get. So, and I'm trying to learn from Mike how to slow down.
Right.
I mean, I rush from place to place. I've always got something to do. Yeah. I need to get there. And I look at Mike and go, God, how do you do it? Yeah. I need to learn from you. I need to slow down. And he's yet to teach me. So we'll have to try again.
Yeah. So there's a solution to this. All Mike has to do is show up to the Northwest Overland rally with us. And then we'll all go down the coast together like me and you do.
I would love to do that. That sounds absolutely great. So maybe we can, crossing fingers that it works out. I mean, this summer got completely messed up for me anyways, after I got my arm crushed and then I was sick. And then, I mean, it was one thing after another, as you guys know. So next season, let's make that a point.
Good idea.
All right, guys, y'all heard it right here. We're going to hold you to it, right, Jerry?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll all have to cooperate on that.
So, Jerry, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast. And you are the answer to a question that a lot of other vendors have. I frequently have vendors who I'm friends with, and I pretty much have a hard time keeping them off the podcast. They all want to come on the podcast, but you're an example of what I want. I want somebody who's actually doing it and building it.
Well, thank you. It's been a long time coming, and I should have been on the podcast long ago, but typically it's my fault why I haven't been on. And
but I was making a point. We generally don't have vendors on because they're not doing both.
Right. And that's been the problem. And that's like one of the things that I don't, I like to, I guess we rain on the parade of the overlanding community on occasion, that it's become too commercialized. We were joking at Overland Expo this week that, for those of you that have heard of Patty Upton, the woman that went around the world and went through the Darien Gap with a Jeep, she was camped next to me this whole weekend. We should make it a requirement, I said, that every single attendee of Overland Expo goes and watches her slideshow. Because if you see what can be done with a bucket of bolts, basically, with no glitzy anything, no, Max Tracks and no jerry cans and no, I drove her Jeep from the one side of the venue to the other. And I bless you, Patty, but I wanted to get out of that thing so fast. I thought my Land Rover was pretty archaic. That's a rough ride, just driving that thing. So to do what she and her husband did is amazing. And that, for me, that's where it all began. We called it travel, camping, adventure. It wasn't overlanding. I like to say when as soon as you put the word overlanding on something, it just means charge more. But if we could get back to some of that, I would love to see that. And to your point, Phil, Jerry's the real deal. He's doing stuff out there where some of these vendors, I think, it's a money grab. I mean, I hate to say that.
And not even, I agree with that. But the other side for me is, I don't feel like you can be successful at creating overland products and not have overlanded. You may be an engineer and you may be able to design something pretty, but if you don't have the experiences to coordinate those benefits and turn them into features, There's always something missing from just the engineer versus the engineer who overlands. There's always missing.
Take it from somebody that has been out on the road for 5 years straight. I will tell you immediately if a product is any good, because you'll get out there and you guys travel with me, so I'll start ranting about shit because it's like some engineer designed this piece of garbage, and then you get out there and within 10 minutes you go, well, it looks good, it sounded good, it makes sense, and then you go, this is a complete piece of shit. It doesn't. I mean, let's just throw it out. I can't tell you how many things people, I'm not going to mention names, give me things or whatever that I chuck, or that or admittedly I'll go and buy something. Camp chairs is a good one of this. Camp chairs. Let me tell you about camp chairs. We could have a whole podcast on that. I've had so many camp chairs, and you get them, and literally you sit down in the thing and you go, holy crap, this is a piece of garbage. Or it's going to break, and it always does in a month. Sir William talks about this all the time. He's always talking about camp chairs too. But a lot of times it's stuff sold by people that actually never have used this stuff, or it came from, even worse, it came from China and they never used the stuff.
Yeah,
that's my two pet peeves.
Being on the camera side of this, I have learned that there are a lot of products that the first time they were actually really used hard was when they decided to drive to Utah to do the promo videos and advertising.
Right. That's right. And they go, wait a minute, why? How does this set up again? How come this knob is there? I don't understand this. Yeah. It's frustrating. Things that Jerry just watched me fold up my rooftop tent, and it has it's the kind that has the zipper around the cover. And, it takes you all of, I don't know, a minute to fold up the tent and get the tent away. And then it takes you another 10 minutes to get the freaking cover on. And, the zipper, and it's just like, you shake your head. You go, I don't know if the guy that designed this, the cover and the zipper, did he ever camp?
No, you're right. I mean, it is so much work to put the cover on and locate the beginning of the zipper.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's raining.
And this was on a nice day. I was out here today on a nice day.
What
if it was cold?
Rooftop tents, over the years, and you want that bag to be as simple as possible to put on.
And it seems like they use the worst zippers in the world.
Ever. Yeah. Because you're just pulling on that thing, waiting for the thing to rip off, right. And then you're gonna go, "Oh, that's a piece of garbage. Let me throw it out." And that's unfortunate, And I get it. Some of it has to do with cost and production and final price for the product, and there's a lot of factors that go into this stuff. But oftentimes it also has to do with somebody in the day had an idea. So obviously, I'll use rooftop tents as we're talking about this. Somebody had an idea way back in the day, probably Magdalena. I don't know. I remember them. That was my first rooftop tent. It was the only one you could get in America. Had an idea. Let's put a tent on the roof that folds out. Somebody came up with that idea. And now it's been copied over and over and over again by many, 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 many different companies. And over the years, different styles and things have evolved for sure. Some better than others. But then there's other things that are they've just, I don't want to say they rebranded, but essentially they've just taken somebody else's product, copied it, tried to produce it cheaper, smacked a new name on it that sounds super cool, like Overland Essential Gear. I don't know, I'm just making shit up, but you know what I mean? Like, and in the glitzier it sounds, and make a nice website, make a nice marketing campaign, people are going to buy it. And the guy's never camped.
First time you find that out.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people who purchase the stuff, they don't camp either, so they never find out that they have a bad creation. I live in a neighborhood where literally Jeeps and 4Runners are driving up and down the street all the time, fully kitted out. These guys,
it looks cool,
but they haven't even gone to the state park and barbecued.
Right. Yeah, they have a rooftop tent too, by the way, which they've never used.
That's what I'm saying. They got the whole thing. Yeah. They have it all.
So some guy comes over to me this weekend, and I don't know what company he was looking at actually, but he came over to my truck, and if you've seen my old Land Rover, it has a shovel mounted on the fender in the front, like most Land Rovers do. And the guy looks at me, he goes, "Dude, that's a cool shovel." He goes, "That looks like you probably just got that at Tractor Supply or something." I go, "Yeah, I don't know, probably bought it at Tractor Supply and strapped it on there." He goes, "I just came from a booth." He goes, I saw a shovel that cost more than $500. He goes, I think I want your shovel. Where'd you buy that?" And I just laughed. I go, "Oh, I'm quite sure you could find a $500 shovel. Do you need a $500 shovel? Does it scoop poop any better than my shovel? I don't think so."
That's funny.
I'm ashamed. I own a $300 shovel.
There you go. I'm literally the one that's on my Rover out here right now. I think I got it at Tractor Supply. I'm not making that up. It's a shovel. You know, who cares? It was probably $39.
And I don't have a problem with people having expensive toys. It's just when they actually think that they've got the best because they spent the most.
Right. Yeah, and that's not.
Because I like toys too.
Sure, me too. Yeah. Anyways, we probably ranted enough for one day.
Oh, absolutely. Jerry, is there anything you want to say?
No, I'm just happy to be out here and enjoying the company. Wish you were with us. And, looking forward to doing it again. No, I enjoy being on the road. It's, to me, it's, I got the best office in the world. I got this big windshield in front of me. And, I can't be in a better place than that. So that makes me happy.
What about you, Mike?
Likewise, it's been awesome traveling with you, Jerry, and we're going to have you on the podcast. Let's make them like we'll bring them on once in a while just to lighten up our Phil and I's heavy dialogue.
Well, this is my personal want. I want you guys to sit down with me. I don't want to have a conversation like we had. I want to be the interviewer and talk to you guys about Africa,
which we've talked about.
No,
I think that would be a lot of fun. I mean, I didn't go into much detail.
No.
And but there's so much detail to an African trip, a true overland trip. And the funny thing is, Mike and I have done virtually the identical trip 10 years apart. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to talk to each other and to see, well, you went there. What did you see? I went here. This is what I saw. Yeah. I missed a coup by 3 hours. Yep. And this is what happened when I went through this country. Stuff like that. And
so here's our two plugs. We're going to do a special 3-hour edition of the podcast at some point with the three of us sitting in the same room with beers.
Oh yeah.
Okay. We're going to sit at a pub and we're going to do a special podcast for you just on Africa stories. That's plug number one. Plug number two is, for those of you that know, I have a book coming out eventually. I'm working on finalizing a publisher stuff with African stories. So that's also going to be coming your way at some point.
Can't wait to read it.
All right, guys. You know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on the trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.